All right. Happy Sunday. Let's do a brief sound check. Hopefully you can hear me and I'm not still on my musician mic, which has been turned off. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay. As long as we're not having any distortions, we'll go ahead. So, hi, I'm Pamela Aaralyn, a multidimensional clairvoyant and channel. My sources are from myself. If those sources change, I will tell you because as a multidimensional channel, they change often. When they're from myself, it's from prophecy because I'm a seer. I've been getting these world predictions since age 5, and they're not always fun. I haven't had 1 year where I haven't had to say something exceedingly difficult, but we are going to talk about how to end it on a positive note and how to help you understand that time is fluid and that ultimately it's up to you. As a collective, it's up to you to take a prediction and look at it as a motivation and inspiration in your own life for what you can change and for what you can change about your local vicinity around you. One of the yogis that I channel often said to me once, if every single person changed what's underneath their roof and in the heart, what a world we would have. So keep that in mind, that when we share these things today, that although they're always changeable, everything is changeable, and we're just looking out for the entire year of 2023 only. If you see something you don't like, know that there's been a large culmination of energies and influences individually and collectively that have caused us to arise upon a difficult prediction, and know that it is in our sovereign right to change it. That's what Christ consciousness is. To be able to step in with free agency and say, you know what? This inspires me to live differently. Okay. So, predictions for 2023. The word escalation comes to mind. Oh, let me turn that off. Speaking of that, I was just thinking about escalation from media, particularly social media. That is one of the biggest problems that arise, is that when we experience something, it comes out into social media from false news outlets and it is embraced in a way as if it is true. So that is a rampant problem. One of the biggest things that Archangel Metatron told me to share with you today um, is to only look at that as a surface level problem, because there is much that you are being distracted from this year. And when you think about some of these things happening, they're a part of our unique human shifts. But when they hit our news outlets in a unique way that would be painful to you, try to go deeper. What is it we're truly being distracted from? That's a message that we're having today from him. Okay. Yeah. After this, if I have time, I'll go through some of your individual questions, but I don't want to look at chat until then, if you don't mind. I want to stay focused on some of the things that I've been seeing and some of the visions, because they were intense. And the word escalation comes up in terms of what's happening in the human collective. And the word reverence comes up as a year of learning how to resonate with what is sacred and what is reverent to you and to other people. So that's a very middle way consciousness that we as a collective are still practicing in 2023, right? So this year of escalation from news sources and social media was one of the biggest things that Metatron said, whoa, let's all back up from trying to change the world, and let's understand that we created it. We, not a source in the sky, not an old man with a beard sitting up in the clouds somewhere. What is the world for? It's for us to reconcile, is what he says. It's for us to reconcile. Okay, and that's what we're doing. And that was the third word of the year with its vibration that he wanted to share with us today, is reconciliation. Okay. So escalation, with that word that was shared first, if you want escalation, because as so many people say, we want the truth to be revealed. So you're going to get a lot of that in 2023. There will be a lot of massive uncoverings. If you thought you saw it starting in 2020 and 2021 and 22, you ain't seen nothing yet. So when you want escalation and then you get it, when you want disclosure of certain things and then you get it, this is a year of disclosure and you're going to get it a lot. And now, how are you going to handle it? There will be a lot of global unrest this upcoming year. So you're going to get escalation, but what are you going to do about it? Just a question to be pondering. Okay. Okay. So 2023 is the beginning of a 3-year Cold War, an escalation of a war. We've already been in the makings of this Cold War, but the whole escalation of it begins in 2023 and it lasts for 3 years, according to the galactic teams and angelics who speak with me and the visions that they show me. So what is it escalating to? Unfortunately, it escalates to a nuclear problem in 2023. It's not the prediction I wanted to bring to you. The vision that I saw had to do with a nuclear plant on the border of Ukraine and Russia, but still in Ukraine. It is active. It is currently very guarded. And it's built around a bunch of concrete, as most of them are. And I got a vision not of a bomb from Russia, but of a nuclear missile that is not tactical, but strategic. And it's designed to want to blow that up. So that just was one of the heavy things that I saw that I've been worried about. And I got very many, like 5 different specific visions of it in this month alone in my meditations and in my sleep time as a prophet and as a seer. So why am I doing this? Because you want to know. I ask myself, like, why am I sharing things with you all the time? And I feel that people deserve to know these visions, and you can take it with a grain of salt, but also ask yourself, what would you do? Are you prepared? Right? This could leave Europe in a really bad state if that plant blows up. And you're already in a very bad state. So these things, I love you very much, and I share these things with you so that you can prepare. You can store food. You can store clean water. You can learn how to grow your own food. You can change your life, and you can be prepared for something in case the predictions are true. Okay? So Ukraine is a problem in terms of that plant there that does get attacked by Russia, according to my visions. So get mad or thank me, it's your choice. I have grown such a thick skin that you can say whatever you want in chat right now, but I'm just sharing a prediction. It's fluid. Predictions can change. We'll see what happens. Just know that I got that vision 5 different times in 1 month and about 15 times just in 2022 alone. So typically as my visions escalate, they tend to be more of an alignment towards something to happen. And then I have to make a decision with whether to share them with you or not. I'm just going on about this because there's some people kind of blowing my head off in chat right now about sharing it and why am I sharing it. And like I said, but it is what it is, guys. And I told you today was going to have to be a bit of a hard thing. And if it scares you, you have my apologies in advance, but we can either operate in fear or we can operate in our sovereignty. Okay, so that's the first hard prediction. So it's this is a nuclear problem. And unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because that makes you think that I'm politically leaning and I'm not. But it is unfortunate to the entire outcome of things that people continue to supply, including my country. Many countries are going to continue to supply weapons to Ukraine. That's unfortunate because that could mean an eventual worsening of a problem. And this, the energy of that, when given to me by the angelics, say that is a bit of a problem, that we continue to supply weapons to them. It's not our war, and we don't mean to be. None of us who aren't in it we don't mean to be like lacking in compassion, but we're going to share weapons to them at what cost? Not just to them, but to us and to the world. We have to think about the deeper situation in that. Okay. Okay. Next thing. So no one really wants to get resources from Russia when they don't have to. So what this does is it gives the UK in particular, and Europe as a whole, the chance to kind of look at, okay, as individual sovereign countries, when it comes to NATO, like, what are we really going to do in terms of our own energy shortage, our dependence upon Russia in this way, and how are we going to fix it? So there are some good things that come out of this in 2023 as well. And those good things will be that both the UK and Canada, and Italy, Spain as well, portions of France, but not all of it. That's another story for another prediction. Will become more sovereign, will lean on each other in a unique way. Okay. Right. They're going to lean on each other in a unique way. And that means they're depending upon each other instead of just Russia, and they create new ways to have resources for energy and food, particularly for energy. You know, I know you have your own resources for food, but this is just really, really important to see that the end positive result of all of that is that NATO as a whole, although divided in the distant future, tend to work in a way that begins to benefit each other, and to think about each of your own individual resources to shift that. Okay. So that's a catalyst. There are a lot of much necessary changes, and change doesn't come cheaply. Change is expensive, and we're paying the cost as a world right now. Particularly Europe is paying the cost. Okay. So Putin isn't budging at all from what my visions can see about this situation. And he's not budging on any resolutions for the crisis of resources. And again, according to my visions, this forces Europe to consider getting resources from elsewhere and from themselves, and working together. And granted, that point isn't exactly in 2023, but it begins in 2023. Now, the hard part about that, again, change isn't cheap, which means that we still have a very cold winter for people struggling to heat their homes and to have resources right now. And I feel like what this does for the United States and Canada, a lot of very powerful resources are there's something to a workaround with the US and Canada and the UK with this means that many Canadians and Americans have to work together to make sure that our brothers and sisters in the UK don't freeze to death this winter and next winter, because we have the same problem in 2023, according to my visions, as we do right now in 2022 in the winter. So this is going to catalyze a change so that we can help people who are struggling to heat their homes. Okay. The bad news about some of the bigger players that I saw in the Ukraine and Russian war is that China is already involved, and by midway through 2023, they will become even more involved. And the problem is, if China becomes as powerful as the US, what then? Right? So I'm still watching that really closely. All right. Because that's just, that could be a problem as we head into like 2028 to 2032 times, when I look deeper into the future. So, Another problem that I potentially saw arising out of that is that people are desperate. And when it comes time for elections, people will begin to vote for anyone purporting to change the energy poverty crisis, which is a problem because a lot of potential negative political influences could be voted for when people are that desperate. Granted, that prediction, according to the angelics, were really 50-50 in terms of would that actually happen? Would you vote someone in that was atrocious or not? And it's real up in the air still. So I'm watching that. Okay. So the people's response to this was interesting. When I asked the angelics to talk about any prophetic visions they could give me about how we would handle it, there was an initial state of panic, worldwide riots, and then people working together because they had no further choice when it came to food shortages and energy crises. We had no other choice. So a lot of riots in Europe for 2023, and then a lot of people working together for food and resources that you don't have. That was another part of it. So I'm thankful that in the end of 2023, in the fall and winter, people began to choose more peace over war. And that's something that Metatron wanted to share with me, was to make sure that your responses to all of this promote peace for your family and for your local families, and to work together where you are. Okay. You won't be able to depend upon supermarkets next year as much. So you need to depend upon each other, and you need to be creating cooperatives together for food resources, right? And even energy resources when things get hard. So, shipping has become an ever increasing problem. So make sure you're learning about how to grow your own food, how to clean your water. There have been a lot of advancement this year about that. So, yeah, make sure you know how to clean your water and store your water. Okay, so let's move on to real estate and how this affects the market and how this affects things insofar as residential real estate in particular, landlord tenancy, and what people can afford. So I don't sense, there were a couple of psychics this year. You guys were telling me that some people had predicted an economic collapse in January of 2023. And the angels did not show me that, thankfully. So that's not on the agenda for that. But what I did see happening is that interest rates for homes are increasing to 7%. It was very specific, that 7% and not more. And they're going to be doing a slow increase of the interest rates on buying starting in January, and then capping out at 7% by June of 2023. And then weirdly enough, there are some interesting things in legislature, and this is primarily in the US that I'm seeing this for this prediction, or is, the angels corrected me, it is in the US, not elsewhere. We'd have to look at that country by country. And in my filter, I don't know enough about other countries and how they operate with home sales and contracts and interest rates. But I can say that for the US, they showed me 7% by June of 2023, and then some new legislature arising, and then completing itself, being able for a full, what do you call it, when law actually effectuates, it's fully effective by the end of June. So that makes it easier by the end of June, because it can't increase anymore. It's just like completely capped. And then there's a second law that becomes effective by the end of June as well, that drops it considerably. So if you're looking to buy, just hold out is the best thing that the angels would say. Just hold out. Because by June, those two different new laws that go through legislature that would make this interest rate begin to drop slowly. And throughout the rest of the year, you'll notice it going back down to crazy right from where it started, crazy cheaper. You're talking like 4 and 5%, 4.5 to 5.1% by the end of 2023. So the real estate market for the U.S. in particular is all over the place. Now, as you see these interest rates increasing during that time that they're increasing and then capping out, you do see these rising cap rates, due to these rising interest rates, and there'll be an easing of the residential home prices due to this increase, in the cap rates. So people are trying to increase rents. That's one of the things I was seeing is a lot of landlords are considering increasing rents to kind of cover this, but rent rates in 2023 are skyrocketing and tenants just can't afford it or they're not willing to meet that. So the market is leaving tenants behind for landlord tenancy in 2023, and landlords may find their homes empty due to a continuing decline in the standards of living, or when they do find that people are in their homes, they'll have a hard time getting them out. If they need to sell their homes, they'll want to come and stay forever, and then they'll have a hard time getting them out because people just don't want to buy, at least for the first half of 2023. So if you need to sell before then and you are a landlord, this might be something to consider. If you have a tenant right now, you're going to have a hard time getting them out unless, you're on a month to month or whatever. So there's that. So we have this continuing decline in the standard of living, and people, insofar as what people can and can't afford for both single family and multifamily rentals. The real estate speed of sale is much slower in 2023. That's something you should know if you're thinking about buying or selling your home. And overall, the market is just ever shifting. It's just all over the place, and it's quite sticky in 2023. And if you can't wait out a purchase, if you can wait out a purchase, if you're thinking of purchasing, I would not purchase anything until after June, because you'll reap the results of more safety in affordable buying and closing cost, interest rates, etc. So home prices right now are still a bit at a high, and they're going to remain that way for a while. They're slightly dropping from now until June, so if you can just wait it out, that'll help you too. If you're a buyer, it's best to wait. If you're a seller, it's best to sell right now, like before, I'd say February would be a really good time if you are a seller and you're in the US. The good news of something that I saw is that banks are working with Biden regarding more support for first-time buyers. So if you're a first-time buyer and you're in the US, now is your time. Now is your time, okay? Because there will be some new legislation coming out in 2023 around July that could help you with that, okay? Hold your questions if you don't mind, and if you've already posted something, just wait, because I've got a lot to get through yet, and I don't know if I'm going to have time, but I will let you know if I do. Okay, when we're talking about global markets, the overall visions that I got leaned in towards global markets being somewhat weak in 2023. There's some economies such as India and Korea that are expected to deliver growth for you. But as for the rest of the world, it just appears that investors will have to wait until 2024 to start seeing some ultimate signs of a recovery that would actually last. We have some recovery and then it gets bad, and then we have recovery and then it gets bad, right? So you're going to have to wait until 2024 for any signs of recovery, and that's at the very minimum. So insofar as the world and natural disasters, I did see some more flooding, 2 eruptions from volcanoes. I saw a fairly good size earthquake coming for California. And that's bad news, but the good news is that we have homes that can now handle this. So it's not really the type of earthquake that could devastate you or land you homeless, right? I saw a landslide in Europe. I feel like, wait, angels are correcting me. Yes, I saw 2. landslides in Europe, possibly from what this looks like, I'd say Switzerland, and also southern France is a place where I saw another landslide. I did see some flooding in Ireland next to a pretty small fishing town. So that was pretty concerning that people, fishermen there recognize that they definitely need to move more inland after that. And that was around between August and September for Ireland. So insofar as medical advancements, I did see a little bit, not as much as I would have liked to see, but the allopathic medical community and the pharmaceutical community, particularly in the US and Canada, do not have as much of a hold on us as they used to. That's slowly slipping away between 2023 and 2032. So there are some advances in 2026 that I saw for Alzheimer's, more excellent advancement in healing cancer from the allopathic medical communities right now. Granted, what I also saw that is in 2023, most of the people in the US and in Canada are aware that prevention is key, and we're learning a lot more about homeopathy and herbal medicine, particularly Chinese and Ayurvedic herbal medicines, and just learning how and what is indigenous upon our own soils. So there's a lot of people just saying, you know what, I'm going to handle this myself, because the cost of healthcare for 2023, it doesn't get easier. It doesn't rest. It rises for allopathic healthcare insurance and the cost of healthcare in general. So some people are just saying, well, screw it. I'm just going to pay out of pocket because I can't afford insurance anymore, because it's going up and then going up and going up. And it'll go up in 2024 and in 2025. But they are handling this crisis by increasing our health insurance, not helping or creating programs for it. They're just increasing the cost. So that's some unfortunate predictions that, according to the angelics, they're not showing me anything different. Or when that gets better, you're going to need to learn how to stay healthy, how to eat well, and a lot about herbal medicine. Okay. I did get some information about the murder in Idaho. I got that murder will be solved in 2023, that it was a middle-aged male, but also has support of covering up a crime by a female, I'm not sure if he's younger. That's hard. That was hard for me to ever pinpoint her age, but a cover up by a female and a middle-aged white male. Nothing unusual on that, right? But the murder in Idaho will be solved in 2023. But this feels more towards, I'd say the end of January and early February is when that's coming. So let's talk about health and some of the interesting trends that I'm seeing arise. And I want to talk about this without getting flagged, so please don't type anything in my chat that's going to give me a flag, because I have to be very delicate about what I saw here. So I saw a lot of pericarditis and myocardial infarctions and heart disease rates increasing both in the UK, Canada, Spain, Italy, the US, and those are just where the visions start. So what is causing people to die? It's not COVID, because the visions didn't give me an increase of COVID. There was something about a new type of virus arising in 2023, but that's not causing this either. They weren't able to link the two together according to my visions. So you won't see government owning up to the true cause of this in 2023. And many of you already know what it is. So this is something that I'll hold to, that there were some medications that you were given and it wasn't disclosed how harmful they were. And that's some of that is people are starting to really wake up to what that is, and people are not going back for their second dose or third one or whatever. So that's enough of that. But you know where I'm trying to say without getting kicked off YouTube here. So young people and old people alike are struggling with their hearts, with heart problems in 2023. Some say, again, that it's this after effect of COVID, but research isn't aligning to evidence that in 2023, nor are the studies that are looking at that now. Studies show that insofar as people who didn't take the medicine and had COVID, there isn't a correlation. So why don't we have studies about those who did? Just a question people are asking themselves now and continuing to ask a lot more. That's all I got to say. So that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about with that. But I did want to say that the positive end of that and the results of that is that more people are spiritually awakening at a faster and faster pace than I've ever seen before. In 2023, you think it's good now, you just wait. More and more and more people are waking up. And what's interesting is more people in higher governmental roles are awakening and pulling apart their own governments and being public about what they found. Interesting. Disclosures there for 2023. You'll see more mainstream celebrities speaking up, particularly musicians and actresses, about what's going on behind the scenes in their industries. So you'll have that type of disclosure. You do not get the type of extraterrestrial disclosure that you're hoping for in 2023, unfortunately. But you will see, as a result of all these things that I just said, you will see, according to my visions, a lot more people reclaiming their sovereignty and deciding to live their lives in ways that make them interdependent and eventually independent, mostly, of their governments. And people are beginning that process, and it's incredible. So with that good news, I know I have to give you some bad news. Artificial intelligence is on the rise, and it's on the rise in ways that people will begin these programs where they're really messing around with test tube babies and the potential of, like, say, give rich people the capacity to decide what color their baby's eyes and hair will be and things like that, which is a beginning of a big old racial divide. I really did not like us playing God in that way. And then there's, as typical in the middle way consciousness, you understand that with that action, there's the positive side. Many people who are really struggling with issues with reproduction get the chance to have a baby. So our continuing decline in reproductive rates for 2023 will be something that the scientific communities use as an excuse to grant this, and it has its positive and negative sides. So that will continue, and you'll see more people being seduced by AI, but also equally enough, there are just as many people that I saw in these visions preferring nature, preferring the natural means, preferring real people, real connection, real answers that are biological, as opposed to living in a dependent lifestyle on AI to be happy. That means that this new idea of META verse is not so, it's going to flop, and it already is. So that was some good news, is this the idea of things that people had about creating that and doing all of your work in that environment and all those sort of things. It doesn't happen. It's only a few people doing that, and less and less and less by the day. So that idea flops. The unfortunate thing that I did see about AI is that your everyday movements and actions are even more so monitored than they already are. So right when you think that you can't be monitored more, you are being monitored more. The positive end of that is that I did not see this idea that some people are predicting to come, what did they call it, social credit score. It's not going to be a thing in the US in 2023. Or in Canada, or in portions of Europe. Some portions yes, some portions no, but it's beginning in some portions of Europe. But for the majority, it's not really something that's implemented in 2023. Okay, so no social credit score, thankfully, and people telling you what to do and how to act and getting a score based upon it. Now, I did want to talk about a rise in self-employment. I'm sure that you've already noticed this, particularly in the US, that if my kids love fast food, and we live in a tiny town, and sometimes they're just like, go get me a, Wendy's Frosty or something terrible for them. And we'll drive through, and there'll be like a 45-minute wait. And then you'll see these signs. If you notice that, people don't want to work. Why? It's not, can't always say it's not because they're lazy. Sometimes it is, but the majority of the time is because people know that it's just not enough money and the benefits aren't great. compared to what they could get if they were self-employed. It's just not worth it to them. So a lot more people are starting small businesses, and particularly light workers. There's a lot more sacred commerce in 2023. That vision made me really, really happy. Because I saw that more people will be supporting you in small businesses and supporting each other. More grants available for the beginning of small businesses in 2023. Okay. Yeah. So social media is changing. It's just changing. It's kind of a pain in the butt for 2023. Much more censored than ever before. 2023 is a time to rethink your growth strategies for your reach if you are primarily reaching people in social media, because of some interesting things I saw with social flares. We could have some off and on issues with access to social media during the fall and winter of 2023. Because I did see a significant solar flare that affected people in a minor way with some internet and cell phone loss in the world, particularly in the US and Canada, the northern portions of US and Canada, for a few days. It can be a problem for a few days. So social media as a whole, the overall energy that I got for 2023 is you need it. You despise that you need it, but you don't know how to grow your reach without it. And this is kind of the dilemma that so many small businesses are operating in, is that we're all going in this direction with our businesses being online. And yet Earth is giving us this direction of our businesses really needing to be more local and reaching out and working together locally. So we're not quite there yet with reaching people locally, and spiritual businesses in particular. You're still assuming that people in your location will not be open to your business. And believe me, it couldn't be further from true in 2023. So many people that you think don't believe in what you do, or that they're not awake or whatever, you might be judging them. You might be really not giving your local community a chance. So surprise yourself and get off the internet just a little bit and try some old school advertising, like business cards and flyers. And you might be really surprised just telling your hairdresser what you do about your small business, particularly if it's a spiritual business. Okay. So learn to grow your reach during times where a solar flare might affect our capacity to be online for days on end. Learn this, because that'll affect you. So learn to grow your business with social media and without it. So here's a theme that I'm seeing. A lot of people in 2023 are fed up. They're fed up with fakeness and inauthenticity. And even in your spiritual communities, you're fed up with people saying love and light and then not really doing anything to help you. So what the angel said about that is, as opposed to saying, how can I support you? Just support them. Can I do this for you? Don't ask, just do. It was just some advice from the angels on that. So more and more people are noticing that many are living on the surface of truth, if not in all out lies in 2023. Many more people are wanting the truth. But what we're not wanting in 2023 is keyboard warriors. We're not wanting for you just to spread awareness and say, well, I've done my part, waiting on somebody to come up and sweep up the pieces of our country and to do something about it. And I did my part by spreading awareness. It's not enough. I'm really sorry. In 2023 and 2024, keyboard warriors out there just spreading awareness. Well, guess what? We already know. We are awake. Most of us are by then. You're going to have to do more than just talk behind a computer. You're going to have to change your lives and help others change their lives in a real practical, legitimate way. Okay? I know that one hurts you in the gut. It was enough and now it's not enough. Right? So you'll see more and more revelations of the lies that we've been told and the lies we're living. So this idea in 2020 to 2022, it was like, oh my gosh, lies, and look at what everyone else is doing to me. No, in 2023, it's what can I do about it? How can I change my life? How can I change my life and actually be in my power? Okay. So this means more and more whistleblowers, things like that in 2023, and more truth coming out. Unfortunately, I did see the rise of another pandemic, and no, it's not the C word. It's not that. It's some unknown thing. It may be the beginnings of another pandemic in 2023. So I'm telling you that not to spread fear, but to just share a vision and to have you prepared, because you should always be prepared. All right? Prepare your immune systems, lose weight if you need to, heal your diabetes if you need to. If you have immune system conditions, heal it. Now's the time to work on that, right? So in education, what I'm seeing for education is for 2023, a rise in more homeschooling, more unschooling, more adults continuing their education online. I saw a rise in teenagers, mine included, just leaving schools. I had 2 kids just leave schools, and one of them is working on his GED, and I don't know what the other one's going to do. Right. So a rise in kids just like leaving schools and getting their GEDs or high school diploma equivalent. And then some of them not even doing that, but just creating their own self-employed small businesses. So parents, what I advise you on that one is stop, shoving the past down their throats and stop being like, you have to get your diploma. You have to get your diploma. Just let the kids start their own businesses. Just see how they surprise you. Right? Because the old way is not going to be pertinent, because you may need your kids around to help you farm. You may need your kids around to help you, if you get sick from this new virus, you may need your kids more than you ever have. So stop trying to kick them out of the house. Right? I did see a rise in more school shootings, unfortunately, for 2023. But this also catalyzed a way that led towards changes in education that support safety. So schools are changing things and finding ways, as opposed to saying you can't be educated if you have a problem. They're finding like the problem students in 2023, and they're saying, let's rehabilitate that student before something terrible happens. This kid might have a problem. Let's give them counseling in school for free. Let's create programs for them that would prevent them from shooting up schools, right? So I saw a lot more programs coming out in 2023 for prevention based upon 2 major school shootings that are worse than I've ever seen before. They're worse than anything that I've ever seen, including Sandy Hook and Columbine. So, and then that causes us to want to shift things and rehabilitate the kids who would want to do this for prevention purposes and afterwards. So I did see, again, a really big solar storm for up to 3 days worth of a blackout with interruptions to technology on a small scale and on a large scale. So that's internet, but not electricity, cell phones, but not landlines, just different things. Okay, so smaller banks, but not big ones. So you'll notice this changes our banking systems in a certain way, where smaller credit unions are needing to have backup generators a lot more often. And then say a smaller credit union might be open, whereas a bigger bank like Chase or Bank of America would not, etc. Okay. Overall, 2023 is weird. And remember, as I give you this information, some of it was good, but it came at the tail end of things that were really hard. And that's how we learn. We're not here to save the world. The world is of our own creation. It's not someone else's. The world is what you focus on consistently. So the more we focus on moving to a newer state of energy and mindset, the more we can shift the world. So remember that. Choose your focus wisely and choose it now. Stop waiting on someone else to choose it for you in 2023. Remember that predictions are made on the dominant energy of the human collective. But if we can alter how we think and feel and behave individually from underneath our own roofs and in our own hearts and bodies and minds, then we can take difficult predictions as more of a motivation and a source of inspiration to live differently and to make change. And then we can alter these predictions together. With conscious intervention, we can avoid many bad potentials. We've always had the potential to change our awareness and to change ourselves. Okay, just remember that. My cat's meowing in the background going, yes, yes. I'm going to stop biting my other cat this year. Sorry, he didn't say that. I just had hopes. Let's look at your questions. We'll go into questions. Let's see how we're doing for maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. And let me see with questions. Someone said, I'm surprised hearing this. I've been told things are getting better, that we're entering the golden age. Okay, so we are entering the golden age, but here's the thing about Earth. Earth is for growth. Earth is for expansion. And what do we need for expansion based upon polarity? What do we need? We need pain. That is how Earth is and how it always will be. So if you could change one version of Earth, it might change and you might shift it into a 5D experience. And then there will always be another third dimensional Earth for other people to expand and grow into, coming into our planet, and being reincarnated and incarnated here, is for that reason. And then when we have a new Earth potential, we begin to see that we may shift our Earth, but then there will be the newer version of the old Earth coming right up behind it. Okay? And that's for people who want to grow. So if you don't want to grow, you don't come here, and you can complain about it as much as you like, but you come here for growth and expansion, then you grow, but then the Earth is still here for other people to expand. That's what the golden age is about. Is about stepping out of these old paradigms. And in order to step out of these old paradigms, we have to shift, and sometimes change is hard, especially on Earth. So, are people becoming more awakened due to the legalization of psychedelics? No. Still, insofar as the US, there's some legalization of certain things that you wouldn't expect that I saw in visions. Um, some of this is already coming to fruition, that some psychologists and psychiatrists are getting the capacity to work with certain things, but they aren't allowed to work with the things that could actually induce more awakening in 2023. So, and then when they do, then humans want more of it and more of it and more of it. So some of these visions that I'm getting involved, okay, there's some legalization of things, but it's still very monitored and controlled. And pot isn't enough. Pot is more of a coping mechanism as opposed to an awakening inducing drug, right? So please don't depend upon that in 2023, or in my opinion, at any time, depending upon psychedelics is a bad idea. Depend upon yourself, because what are you going to do when you don't have access to those psychedelics, right? We need to do that for ourselves. Yes, Sarah, she said, for the last 2 years, you said there would be other pandemics behind this one. Yep. Yeah, and this is 2023 is the beginning of that, unfortunately. I have not looked into some of these other places. People are starting to go into specific places for other countries that I did not see predictions about. So I can only bring predictions for those countries if I actually saw it. That's why it wasn't mentioned. So if it wasn't mentioned, I probably did not have a prediction for it. Do you see an earthquake in Salt Lake area in 2023? No, I did not. Oh, that sounds cool. Interview with extra dimensionals. Reach out to me. That sounds awesome. Send me an email. Will Washington State need to save water for November? You guys need to be doing that now. Everyone in Washington State and in Oregon, don't tell me that I didn't tell you. Fires, and more fires in 2023 for California, Washington State, and Oregon, and some portions of Colorado as well. Huge portions of Utah, even more than Colorado. Colorado has a pretty uneventful year according to fire. There are some basic wildfires that you get everywhere that you know about, particularly in western Colorado. You know about where you're going to get those, up on the sides of your mountains in certain places. You get those every year. But insofar as disastrous ones, I didn't see anything that couldn't be controlled. But Utah, I don't know. It's a real big problem with wildfires in Utah next year, particularly southern Utah. I saw images of portions of Mount Zion just burned. It broke my heart. I love Mount Zion. I spent several years in southern Utah. Hold up. The chat just jumped and then I lost it. Hang on. Anchorage for Alaska is interesting. I don't know if it was Anchorage, but I did see some sort of a spill in the water. So particularly surrounding Vancouver Island, which is very devastating for some of the the sea life population there, and that even affects like the brackish water running from the oceans into the lands there, making it more brackish and not drinkable for the wolves and bear population. Granted, Vancouver Island does have pretty abundant population as a whole with that. Oops, my screen got too big and now I can't see anything. Hold on. Any words on Bitcoin and crypto? All over the place. Oh my goodness. The moment I would try to peg it, it would drop exceedingly and then fly off the handle exceedingly and get like unaffordable. So now is a really good time if you're going to do those investments, but it's sort of an invest and cash out situation because by the time you would be able to even get your money back, it just gets bad again. So there are a few good moments for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they are now. For the rest of the year, not so much. Now is the time. If you're already invested, just stay put. But crypto is very volatile in 2023, just so that you know, if you are a fresh investor, you need to know that. Oh, I'm not answering that online. She wants to know if pandemics are being orchestrated. Use your head. Okay, so I didn't get any visions about it. I'm protected in what I'm given. Lots of people moving to the middle of the country. Are they onto something? Yes. Yes, they are. Lots of people are moving away from oceans and super dry places that get a lot of fires, and you should be considering the same. I'm not really ready to do that yet, but if you see me just suddenly doing it, you might know. Anything on the East Coast? So New York's a target. And while I didn't see a disaster zone for them this year, I saw someone having to evade it or avoid it. Like there was some intervention that has to be made when Putin gets really pissed off about us continuing to give Ukraine weapons. He threatens New York behind the scenes. So I didn't see anything happen with it, but it's good to know that he's considering. It's good to know to have there in your pocket that knowledge. Will it be easier to get a job? Every market, when I looked at that, was a little bit different. Like everything was slightly different. So some markets, yes. If you're looking to get in the market to become a manager at a fast food restaurant or any restaurant, or if you're looking for the market in retail, with food retail, now's a good time. Insofar as the silicon industry type of jobs, it's still just as difficult, if not more difficult in 2023 to get a job. But a weird turn on the tables. More indigenous show, like more Native Americans and African Americans, more people of color in the Silicon Valley workforce in 2023. So I see changes in Medicare and Medicaid this upcoming year, that look better. It's easier. For instance, like I was really watching this because my mom's in a skilled nursing home right now, and she is transitioning from Medicare to Medicaid, and that transition was painful. For those of you in the States helping your parents with that, you know what I'm talking about. It's painful for them, And in the meantime, she got moved from hospitals to like 5 different facilities in a matter of like a year, when her funds ran out and she had to be dependent upon Medicare and Medicaid. Unlike other countries where you can't do that, these places were just moving her around, and it was like some profitable business to move her around, right? So I did see some interesting laws go in through legislature in 2023 that says you can't just do that and make a business out of it anymore. So the beginning of that shift starts in 2023. I only saw that one because I was looking. So and otherwise wouldn't have seen it. I did not see Trudeau in Canada leaving anytime soon, but I did see some problems that are really bad that caused legal action against him in late 2023 against that person. College loans actually get easier. Well, Biden doesn't do a whole ton all the time, to be frank. He does do something in relation to making it easier for students, but it was an interesting demographic that he chose. He chose to make it easier for adults to go back to school, and he lessened the stringency on people getting into the military. There's a certain stringency that says that you absolutely have to have your GED or high school diploma equivalent in our country in particular to be able to get into the military. And I saw that the military and Biden changed that in 2023, as long as they commit to still being in an educational program while also being in the military. So there were those kind of changes. Yeah. Denise, I can't really say. That's not where I saw, that's not the fault line that I saw having a problem. That's not the area of California that I saw having the problem, though. Maybe that'll help you. Yeah. Someone said everyone should leave Cali, but they won't. I'm not going to comment. But just looking throughout the future at the next 5 to 10 years, I saw a world load of problems, but then a world load of recovery as well. Canadian healthcare gets easier, but only in one specific way for 2023, and that had to do with birth and options for birth and women and how they birth their babies. So that sort of healthcare for Canada. Transportation industry in Canada gets very unusual. There's another strike, and then there's a refresh where jobs are given to truckers there that they don't expect, and increases are given to truckers there that they don't expect, and then the strike is over because changes are actually made. I know the last time you guys had a strike, changes were not made. So look, 555 in the views right now, right when I said that. So I had forgotten about that prediction, so thank you for asking. Yeah, with trans and gender issues generally, it gets lesser for the issues in Canada, more issues in the US, but also there's like two different sides of the fence of this, because you get like the trans and gay community blamed completely on issues that are completely out of their control, like the things that are going on with in 2020 through 2022, teaching certain things in schools that really should be left up to the parents. I saw a lot in 2022 of people blaming the LGBTQ communities on what schools were doing. And what schools are doing, well, you're pointing in the wrong direction. So I saw a lot of talks between, and a lot more acceptance, particularly in the United States, acceptance of that, and a lot less blaming towards the LGBTQ community. And then I did also see on the opposite end of this view, a vision of, well, men and women that aren't gay, just, I don't have the right word, so please excuse me for my lack of education in this department, but just heterosexual people just kind of understanding the need for both masculine and feminine versus just the obliteration of gender and saying, well, no one needs to have a gender, like the need for divine masculine and divine feminine coming together in just basic relationships between a man and a woman. I saw that, an uprising of that, without blaming the LGBT community on that either. So yeah, someone's saying, oh my God. So that's like a big shift. I don't know if you're oh my godding my lack of so I'm trying to keep this as politically correct as possible, but I don't have the education to know the right words. So there's a lot of issues in terms of problems with anti-gay agenda in the UK in 2023, particularly towards those who identify as non-binary. A lot more, violence and brutality towards gay people in the UK, as well as in Ireland, as well as in portions of northern France, but not southern, interestingly enough. I would have thought it would be the other way around. But just, we have a lot more problems that we were holding on to that the heterosexual community clears gay people of, and they stop saying, you're the problem for it because you're gay. Like, that stuff gets better. Like, that sort of blaming and shaming lifts in 2023, particularly in the US. So that was a good news, but there's still just as much violence towards the LGBTQ community, and simultaneously a lot more of an uprising in people's power who are just, hey, I'm heterosexual and I'm cisgender and I am what I am, and I'm a man who likes women or a woman who likes men. So a lot more people saying, I am not ashamed of how I am, and I'm not ashamed to tell the schools, don't teach my children about these things because I want to teach them about these things. So it was the educational systems becoming a lot more aware of what they should and shouldn't teach in 2023. Okay. So that's good for both sides of that fence. But overall, what I would have liked to have predicted to you is, why the fuck is there a fence? Why do we have a fence on, that? Well, it's because the educational systems got out of hand with how people raise their kids. That's where people drew their line. It's like, hey, I'm not ready for that, and I want to raise my kids how I want to raise my kids, right? So people are much more peaceful about their right to raise their kids how they want to, and less fighting in the school systems, more laws in the school systems, one in particular that says, hey, we can't teach their kids this, it's up to the parents. So that was some good news, right? Yeah. Which side is Elon Musk on? Is that a world prediction? And also, what if I told you both? What if I told you that he is strategic and plays both sides of the fence? Just saying. Just saying. Will the collective become more peaceful and accepting? No. The collective becomes more peaceful and accepting of interesting things like our right to grow the crops we want and the amount of crops we want, and our right to have clean water, and to have unique alternative energy resources that we create without having the governments come in and say, you got to pass all our codes and all this. We have too many things going on in 2023 to be worrying about that. So some of the laws are less stringent in that degree. Okay. Yeah. So again, keep in mind that you as a collective have the right to look at predictions and say, okay, I'm going to take this is where the collective is right now, and here's what I'm going to personally do in my sovereignty and in my free agency to shift it for myself and my country, and for my, for all countries, right? So thank you for being here today. All right. And please keep in mind that it's really, really up to you for how you take every prediction. All right. It's really up to you for how you take this and say, okay, this is just where the prophet sees the world at the time, and this is what we need to do, and this is what I need to do, this is what my local community needs to do. And as opposed to talking about it online, I'm going to also shift it and change my life. And I'm going to work with other people and help them change their lives. Maybe I'm going to create a co-op this year, or maybe I'm going to invest in one. What am I going to do for myself, right? So keep in mind that this is where we are. I know Dolores often said, that's the spirit guide that I work with, that some of these things wouldn't happen, but Dolores isn't here in this way in human form. And she also agrees that we can shift our path all the time. So unfortunately, we have shifted that, you guys expecting everybody, the aliens, to come in and deactivate the nuclear plants for you and things like that. I'm sorry, but many ETs have washed their hands of us. And there are some who are also still helping us. So it's a little bit on both of the sides of the fence there with what she has to say about this. All right. I know what she used to say, right? That she as a human isn't here. She in spirit now says otherwise, at least through me as a medium. I don't know what other mediums are saying, and I don't care. I trust what she says through me right now. And I'm going to stay focused on listening to her spirit and updating you as things land and as she wants to address. But that prediction, what she said, has changed. So we have a lot of things that when she was alive, she said that have changed. And I want to be ethical with you and honorable with you and to give you these predictions no matter what, no matter how hard they are, because I believe that when we have tough things to come, that we need the truth. The end, right? So I love you. And please like, please subscribe. It really helps me to continue to share this free work with you. I collect all of my predictions, and about this time every year, I share them with you. I do a lot of channelings on here, so please turn on your notification bell. That helps a lot if you like the channelings. If you need to go meditate right now because you're upset, I created a sound healing and light language activation that you will really love, that I just posted yesterday from the Lemurians, that will calm you right down and put you in your best space in your heart. And I created that for you because I knew I'd be doing this today. So I wanted you to have that in advance. And if you want more of my channelings that are longer and more extensive, please support me on Patreon. The link is above at the top of the chat. I'll see you really, really soon. Bye.